What is going on, guys? Going on 27 Squad. Welcome back into another video. And today we're going to be talking about the New York Giants undrafted free agent signings. Every single one of these guys. It's one of my favorite videos to do every single year. Let's go. If you guys are enjoying the content and liking what you're seeing here, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. And let's get started. Now, these are in no specific order, but I'm going to leave my favorite two for last just because it's always to save the best for last. All right, let's start with our first prospect, Gemon Green. I don't know if that is the right pronunciation of it. I'm so sorry, Gemon Green, GG. I don't know, but 6'2", 181 cornerback out of Michigan. Now, this guy just seems like, if you guys remember Darren Evans last year, the undrafted corner that we signed, he kind of just seems like a camp guy that he has a lot of experience, but just not a lot of production. If you guys watch him on film, actually, there's not a lot of film to watch. I was only able to see bits and pieces, but he seems to play in a nice Michigan defense that has been known to mix it up a lot, and he has a lot of experience running man-to-man, cover 1, cover 3, a lot of single high sets with him, alternating between playing that boundary in either zone or man-to-man defense, and also cover 6 is something that they do at Michigan as well. He seems to play pretty comfortably in man defense, has a lot of physicality, and does not shy away from contact at all. He keeps his hands busy when he's playing man-to-man and just stays physical, likes to follow routes, and does it well on route breaks. He's not a bad corner. He doesn't have a lot of production. He only has 1 pick in his career, not a lot of PBUs, but he had a really good year. I believe it was in 2020 where a lot of Michigan fans were excited about him. But then as the next 2 years went on, I believe they switched defensive coordinators, and it just wasn't his cup of tea throughout the rest of his collegiate career. On top of that, although he had 42 games, I believe 24 starts, he still, I believe, lost his job or lost a lot of his starting reps to a true freshman corner that wound up taking the reins. And obviously, you guys know about DJ Turner, the second-round cornerback that had a great 40 time, 4.26 40 time in the combine, and he was their starting corner. And I guess it was number 2 for Gemon Green. He's not a guy I envision making the roster. I don't know if the Giants would be interested in him making the practice squad. He seems all right. Just like I said, the production doesn't really do it for me. He doesn't seem too bad on whatever film I watched, but he went undrafted for a reason. He has a lack of production for a reason, and that's that. All right, next we're going to be moving on to Dyontae Johnson, the linebacker out of Toledo. I believe he is 6'2", 230. He really reminds me of Cam Brown, to be honest with you. I know Cam Brown is a little bit more lankier. I believe they're around the same weight, and I believe Cam Brown is like 2 inches taller, however. But reminds me a lot of a Cam Brown sort of Zach Cunningham sort of linebacker. A guy that plays in the middle, but very lanky, kind of undersized, kind of smaller in weight, but a decent tackler. I will be honest with you, Dyontae Johnson is a very impressive tackler from what I've seen. He wraps up, he twists the ball carrier down. The way he tackles is pretty solid, pretty sound, but he takes weird angles. He doesn't take great angles, and although he is standing at 230 pounds, which is not a lot for a linebacker, he doesn't seem that quick to me. He doesn't seem that fast when closing in on those angles, and his feet just seem slow in pass coverage. He just doesn't seem all there. It does seem like he has good instinct when picking up route concepts and picking up receivers going into his zone, which is nice. I don't see him being a guy to even compete to have some reps, with this linebacking core. This linebacking core is flooded with average talent, and I just don't see Dyontae Johnson separating himself from the rest and getting any reps. I don't think he'll make this roster. However, if he does, he'll kind of be a replacement for Cam Brown. I believe Cam Brown is still on the team, and as long as Cam Brown is still on the team, I don't see a role for Dyontae Johnson. Okay, this next prospect could be a diamond in the rough, again from the linebacker position. He was a 4-year starter at Central Michigan, and then in his 5th year, we're going to get a lot of 5th-year seniors around this time because of 2020's COVID year. But Troy Brown, the linebacker out of Ole Miss, who had 1 year at Ole Miss. Now, his best season was not at Ole Miss, and it wasn't even the year before. It was in 2020, I believe, or 2019, and he absolutely went haywire, went off. I believe he had 17 and a half tackles for loss, which is ridiculous for college, and had 3 interceptions, I think 1 sack. I mean, he was just productive in his time there, and he doesn't seem like a bad player at all. He could really be a guy that you throw in on run stuff situation, a run stuff specialist. He can play the run fairly well. He is a missile running through the gaps and making tackles, and he does not shy away from contact. I like him a lot. I like him a lot better than Dyontae Johnson. He just seems a lot faster. He seems like he has a specific role. He has what he's good at. Dyontae Johnson seems like a good tackler to me, but he just doesn't seem like there's a role for him. Troy Brown, if you were depleted at the linebacker position and you were forced to bring this guy onto the roster, he would have a specific role, and I like Troy Brown. I think he could damn well be a steal. I believe he's 6'2", 220 or something like that. He's even lighter than Dyontae Johnson, but just seems a lot more compact. I believe he's 1 inch smaller. He's 1 inch smaller, 20 pounds lighter, but he just seems more compact. He just seems more cut up, and he just seems stronger in my opinion. Knows how to maneuver his weight around. Just seems like a missile from that linebacker position. So I like him a lot. I believe he ran a 4.7 4.40 time, which is good, and he has decent pursuit, and a lot of people are excited about him, and I understand why. He also has experience rushing from the edge and had 20 reps on the bench press, so it's not like he could probably be put on some edge situations, and that versatility might get him a spot on the roster. Who knows? Next up, we have the Italian Stallion, Tommy Devito. Guys, if you heard the name Tommy Devito, what would you think of? I would think of it some old school 1990s Italian movie like The Bronx Tale or something, Tommy DeVito or something. It just sounds so Italian to me. I don't know. I love it. But Tommy DeVito out of Illinois, he played 4 years at Syracuse. Like I said, another 5-year starter guy. And his numbers don't jump off the page for you at all. Very, very pedestrian, if not a little bit below that. But he does have some good film. I was able to pull up one game that I was able to watch from him, and he did have decent film. He didn't really do anything too bad. One thing that really jumped out at me, however, is his feet when he's making the throw. It just seems a little antsy when he makes some throws. Something like he'll throw a screen pass and it completely goes off the mark because his footwork is all over the place. He throws the ball with 1 foot all the way in the air. It doesn't make sense, and he'll do it in some quick snap situations and do it off foot. Watching his film really proves to you that at the quarterback position, your footwork, where you place your feet, really matters on how accurate you are as a passer. And a lot of people really just skip by that when they're watching film. You have to watch their feet. Are they pigeon toeing it? Are they getting the right kind of swivel on their hips when they're making the throw? And are they throwing their foot up in the air when they're making the throw? That all really matters when it comes to passing the ball. Tommy DeVito seems to be a victim of that. He has a big problem of that, but he seems to make the right decisions. Seems a little bit mobile, as a lot of these young college quarterbacks are. There's really not any immobile college quarterback. He seems to have some legs, decent accuracy, very good touch on the ball. Throwing power, however, not great. The zip on the ball is fairly average. The average zip on the ball. He really doesn't zip it to anybody, but throws a tight spiral as well. So he's a guy that could make the roster as a third quarterback if the Giants elect to keep a third quarterback. They might, just because of the injury history of both our quarterbacks and Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. You may see Tommy DeVito make this roster, but for sure, I would definitely think he makes the practice squad as an insurance plan. The next guy on this list, Cam Lyons out of Charlotte. He's a long snapper. That's all I got to say. Okay, so we're going to get into the 3 guys I'm really most excited about. And we're going to start off with the first one, that being Alex Cook, the safety out of Washington, 6'1", 195 pounds. Now, every time I see a Washington defensive back, I always have a certain preconceived sort of thought about them. They know where they're at in coverage. They have good instincts, and they can shadow receivers because they're in Washington. They play a lot of off-man zone coverage, shadowing receivers over top in that cover 3, playing over top of them and just making sure they're not beat deep. They usually have very, very good speed, and you see that with a lot of Washington defensive backs. You can go through the list: Budda Baker, Byron Murphy, Taylor Rapp, Sidney Jones, Kevin King, Trent McDuffie, Kyler Gordon, and Eli Molden. Just in recent years, and a lot of these guys, some of them pan out very well, some of them are average, some of them are depth guys. But Washington defensive backs, should they make the NFL, are fairly good in the NFL. They hold their own. Now, this to me was the Giants saying, hey, we got to figure something out at deep safety. We have a lot of box guys, and although Xavier McKinney, I was talking to Diggy about this on Twitter, Xavier McKinney probably is the best free safety on our roster, and he is, in my opinion, a free safety, but there's just nobody else qualified to cover tight ends, covering tight ends and running backs out the backfield in passing situations. So he's forced to play strong safety a lot. He's forced to play on the strong side and play closer to the line of scrimmage. But Xavier McKinney has great coverage skills. We've seen it a lot in past years. But last year, Xavier McKinney played mostly at strong safety because we just don't have a guy that can cover running backs and tight ends. And you guys know how much Wink Martindale loves his safeties. And if he has a specific role for a guy, that's where you're playing. Now, Alex Cook can play everywhere. He has experience at deep safety, and more specifically single high, and a lot of those cover 3 sets. He's always that guy they put playing cover 3, being that single high, playing cover 3. He has experience covering the slot, and more importantly, covering the slot in man coverage, which is good. He has a decent ability covering the slot. I seen him on one play in particular, him guard up a crossing route very, very well in man coverage, and I was actually pretty excited about that, about what he can bring to the team. There's nobody keeping Alex Cook from not making this roster. I'm not in love with Pinnock. I'm not even in love with Dane Belton. I'm not saying Dane Belton's not going to make the roster, but these guys aren't going to keep me from getting an undrafted free agent from a school that produces good defensive backs, like solid defensive backs. He has a good back pedal. It's a little slow. He has a little bit of a slow break off the back pedal, but he has good instincts. He knows what he's doing. And like I said, these Washington defensive backs have a really good mindset and instinct of where they are at in zone coverage and whose assignment is who, and picking up on route concepts and such. All right, so these last 2 I'm very, very excited about because these 2 are guys that are probably the most talented, guys that should have been drafted, for sure should have been drafted, and should have a role on this team if we can sort out the depth chart correctly. So the first guy we're going to talk about is Habakkuk Baldonado out of Pittsburgh. He is 6'5", 260 pounds, and this guy just jumps off the page for me. I was watching Kalijah Cansey film, looking at all the first round prospects, and I'll tell you, I turned on that Tennessee tape for Kalijah Cansey, and Habakkuk Baldonado, although Kalijah Cansey is an exciting, electrifying player, Habakkuk Baldonado was impressing me by the work he was doing versus 10th overall pick Darnell Wright. So I was very excited to see that we drafted him. I was talking to Talking Giants on draft day, and it was day 3, and I was telling them, hey, look out for Habakkuk Baldonado. I think the Giants should draft him in the 5th round. I had him going to the Giants in the 5th round, had him as a 5th round grade. I actually have him a little bit higher just because of what he does best. I know he's very inconsistent, doesn't have the best bend, and has great hands, but seems a little undisciplined in that, kind of waves him around a lot. But I like him a lot. I think he's a very good prospect. And I remember Bobby saying, is that even real? Is that a troll? Because his name just jumps off the page for you. It's a weird name. Habakkuk is a book in the Bible that nobody ever knows about. And Baldonado sounds like Maldonado. It's just Spanish, but it's with a B instead. I guess it's the Italian. This guy grew up in Rome, and I think he's only been invested in football for a couple of years now. I believe just out of high school. Well, I mean, for the most part, he's probably played a lot more football than a lot of these prospects. Some of them just start in college or just start at the end of their high school career. I believe he played 4 years at high school, but he's coming from Rome, so he probably wasn't around football that much, so he's fairly new to the position. We'll see how they can develop him, but man, this guy can definitely make the roster. I already think he's better than a lot of our depth guys on this roster. You're talking about Ellerson Smith, O'Shane Jimenez, I forgot, Timon Fox. I think he's better than all of those guys. And Timon Fox was a guy that a lot of people were excited about last year, and I think he's better than him. He may be better than Jahad Ward. I think Jahad Ward has too much experience, and Jahad Ward knows what he does best, and that is being a run stuff specialist and knowing how to set that edge. He's been fairly consistent for us last year, so I'm not going to say he's better than him yet. He can definitely be our number 3 or number 4 edge rusher on this roster, and I would be completely fine with that. Now, I mentioned before that he has some pass rush moves. You guys can see it. He's got a good swipe, he's got a good rip, he's got a good swim. He knows how to use his arms, and he knows how to disengage. He knows how to keep his distance to push, and he also knows how to use that speed to power. He has all the skill sets. He can rush from the inside. He is sneaky athletic. There are some things he needs to work on. You can see that he is a bit of a raw prospect. I said that all the way back like 2 months ago when I was talking about him in our Giants mock draft. But I'm very excited we picked him up as an undrafted free agent, and I think for sure he's going to make this roster. All right, our last prospect is a little bittersweet because we are so loaded at that wide receiver position this season. Like I said, not with fantastic talent, but it's just going to be hard to crack this roster versus some experienced players, and that is Bryce Ford-Wheaton, the wide receiver out of West Virginia. Now, West Virginia has been known to come out with some booty wide receivers that a lot of people tend to enjoy, like David Sills and Gary Jennings and Kevin White, right? A lot of guys that just are underwhelming when they get into the NFL, but are exciting in college. But I really think Bryce Ford-Wheaton has a skill set that can be used in the NFL. He's 6'3", I believe just about 200 pounds if I'm not mistaken. He is 220 if I'm not mistaken. That's fairly big. So 6'3", 220 out of West Virginia. And West Virginia's like scheme, as far as their like offensive scheme, as far as their route combination, stuff like that, it's not like great, right? It's not fantastic. So I think he's a better route runner than what he showed on film, because he wasn't able to really display his route running ability so much in college. But I think you could see the way he does run his routes that he has that knowledge of how to get around and how to adjust his routes based on the coverage he sees. He does seem a little slow at times. I know he ran, I think like somewhere around a 4.39 or 4.40, something like that. I'm blanking on that one for whatever reason, but I know he ran a fast 40 time. There are times you see him on film, and especially when he catches the ball short, like on wide receiver screens, and he like shuffles through traffic and kind of breaks away, he has the speed to do that. But sometimes when he's going downfield on a route, he just seems a little slow. Maybe he's a little bit more of a strider and kind of looks slow on film because his feet kind of move slower, but he's striding and gliding through the air. Maybe that's the case, but he does seem a little inconsistent as far as his speed goes. One thing I will tell you though, fantastic hands. I mean, his catch radius is all through the roof. Fantastic hands. I never seen him bobble a pass, never seen him catch with his body. Always seen him catch the ball very cleanly with his hands extending at the high pointing the ball when he needs to grab that ball, and his quarterback did a good job getting the ball to him. So I'm excited about Bryce Ford-Wheaton. We really need to see how we can adjust this roster to keep him on, because I'm scared that if we put him on the practice squad, somebody's going to pick him up that needs wide receiver depth. So I really would try to avoid putting him on the practice squad, but let's see what happens in the preseason, because God forbid, I mean, a lot of these guys, wide receivers especially, get hurt a lot, right? We have Colin Johnson coming back from an ACL tear. We have Wan'Dale Robinson soon coming back from an ACL tear. He'll probably be back somewhere October, November. And Paris Campbell has injury issues. Darius Slayton himself has injury issues. I mean, it's all over the place, right? So obviously Sterling Shepard. So he may find a way to get onto this roster just due to injury alone, but I would like us to try to get him on this roster despite that. His numbers don't jump off the page for me at all. I mean, as far as his production goes, but I think he has a use in the NFL. I think he could find his way to this roster to being a depth receiver, and a pretty decent one at that. So that being said, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you guys think about this undrafted free agent class for the 2023 season? And I will see you guys in the next video. Woo!